It's the Badass Banshee Energy Show.
Hi, welcome to the Badass Banshee Energy Show.
A whale of a good podcast.
Hey there, I am Hollis.
I'm Elara.
And we are fantasy authors.
Hi.
And we also like a bunch of other things.
A bunch of other cool things.
Which is why we have this podcast.
Yeah.
It's better that way.
Yep.
Yeah. And
today,
it's about the meow meow today.
it's about the meow meow.
It's about the meow meow. It's all about the Nakos. Okay, to be Japanese with it, but also very American in my pronunciation.
Or gatos.
Gatos.
Mm-hmm.
Italiano or French, honestly. Chat. Chat.
Cat. Hat. In French, chat chapeau. In Spanish, it's el gato and el sombrero. Okay.
You know how you say meow in Italian?
How?
Meow. But it's spelled M-I-A-O.
Okay.
All right.
So today's introduction will be, we're going to talk about our cats.
Because we're obsessed.
Yes. So Hollis, tell me about your cats.
I have two babies.
Mm-hmm.
I have a black cat named Thistle, and she's perfection.
She's adorable.
She's very cantankerous, but I love her to pieces. And she throws up her hairballs in the litter box, and I didn't train her to do that, and bless her with all the blessings from all the gods.
That's really cool.
It's amazing. She's amazing. And she's 18 years old. She'll be 18 in February.
Baby.
I know.
That's amazing.
That's my senior citizen. So she has an excuse. She can be grouchy. And then I have a little younger boy who's, oh my God, Kit is 5.
Aww.
And he's a little snowshoe Siamese.
Oh,
And
sweet.
he's trouble. Trouble, but we love him.
He wouldn't be a cat.
No. He's a show. He's our show cat. We've talked about. He's the cat that when people come over, that is the cat you may pet at my house. You probably won't even see Thistle if you come to my house because she's going to be like, I do not deal with strangers. I do not have time for this. No autographs. And she will go upstairs and sleep on my sweatshirts in the closet.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you?
I have 2 cats and then one has me. So I have Kaladin and Ripley, who are litter mates, and they were rescues. And they are just funny. And Kaladin is the biggest cat in the universe. They're part Maine Coon, but he's twice the size of her because the Maine Coon gene is actually really, really strong. So even if you're just a little bit Maine Coon, they're ginormous. So he is this ginormous black fluff of a cat, and he is a mama's cat, and Ripley just goes and hunts. And then one day Cinnamon just showed up in our yard and never left. So it actually took me, he was coming around about 3 years, and it took me about 2 years to get him tamed, and now he hangs out in the sunroom. He still doesn't come in or use a litter box.
Well, he chose to adopt you.
He stayed.
Yeah.
He stayed. So we feed him, and we are able to get him to the vet and vaccinated and neutered, and it's just really super cool. It worked out well for all of us. So yes. Okay. Useless trivia.
Useless trivia? Maybe not useless though, because who rules the world? Cats.
There you go.
They do. It's not just the internet, it's the whole world, people. It's the whole world.
All right.
Yeah.
So my useless trivia is, did you know that Michelangelo and Raphael are not just Ninja Turtles, but they're Renaissance? Just kidding. I can't even say. What are you doing to me? Everybody knows this.
I feel like everyone over the age of 10 should know that.
Yeah. Okay. So did you know that Michelangelo and Raphael actually hated each other?
Interesting.
Yes, they were contemporaries, and they were rivals for the same amount of work, basically. And when Michelangelo first came to Rome, so Raphael was very threatened by this. And so the Sistine Chapel. So Michelangelo was a sculptor, and Raphael was a painter. And when it came to the plans for the Sistine Chapel, Raphael thought he was going to throw Michelangelo under the bus by recommending that Michelangelo paint the Sistine Chapel because he was a sculptor, not a painter, thinking that he was setting Michelangelo up to utterly fail. However, that backfired just a little bit. So it's hilarious because most people know who Michelangelo are well over who Raphael is. So
that's actually true now that you mention it.
Yes. He really shot himself in the foot.
He really did.
So, but thank you, Raphael, because Michelangelo he's kind of my jam.
I do love Michelangelo. I especially love in the Sistine Chapel how if you're ever there, or the portal to hell is right where the Pope would have stood because he hated that guy.
And it's so much like the portal of hell is so much more beautiful than the actual Sistine Chapel like roof itself. Like I was staring at that thing like this is amazing. There's and gorgeous so and much beautiful detail. And just
it's gorgeous, but it's right where the Pope would have stood to give mass at everything, and just right at the portal to hell.
Right at the portal to hell.
Michelangelo is a very, very spiteful and talented man.
Yes. I highly recommend.
Very good.
And what's your useless trivia?
So my useless trivia is that, oh gosh, I just had like 15 run through my brain. Okay, chill out, Hollis. Okay.
Edit.
Okay. Edit. Okay. Oh my God.
So Hollis, what is your useless trivia?
My useless trivia is, did you know that cats are the only animals domesticated that actually domesticated themselves?
Wow.
It was, thousands of years ago. They saw it as a mutually beneficial arrangement between themselves and us humans, that they could come into where we were keeping livestock and grains and things like that, and it was easy prey because the mice were eating the grain and and it became a nice symbiotic relationship wherein the cats were like, hey, we get food because you're storing your food, and at the same time our stuff was kept cleaner and safer as a result of having the cats around. And that's why cats retain a bit more wildness than a lot of our other domesticated animals do in our modern world, because, bitch, they don't need us. No. They chose to live with us.
Just like Kaladin chose to this is food when I can't find something to hunt. Okay.
Yeah. They totally are like, we do not need you. We decided that you were a luxury item, and you're just like around. It's fine. It's fine. So that's it.
Yeah. So this makes a lovely segue into today's topic, which is cats are awesome. Historical and mythological reasons why cats are the best of creatures.
They are.
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of the, I guess, symbiotic relationship, if you will, that you were just building on, is that cats have been both hated and revered throughout time. Like, people are like deathly afraid of them, and like they'll take your soul. And
I think it's because we can't control them.
Yes, I think that's true.
For a psychological reason, I would say it's because cats are like, because they don't need us.
Right. And and so, but then they're loved and revered because they keep away everything from like
vermin,
snakes and vermin and things that can, bite you, to things that can kill you, like the rats and the mice from bubonic plague. Yeah. And also protecting, as you said, like the grains and stuff like that. So, kind of a nice relationship we had going on. Yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my time in Venice. And that's my first show and tell.
Show and tell!
Okay. Oh. So if you're listening, I'll describe her a little bit. So she's an actual porcelain cat doll that I got in Venice. And like, she's actually like,
and look, she has
a moving tail. She's got the little tail and everything. She's really beautifully made. So she's porcelain. She's hand painted. Every little detail of her dress. I mean, this is a woven, not printed fabric. She was gorgeous. And when I went in, I actually had a long conversation with the owner of the shop that she was being sold at. And I asked her. So first of all, I kind of wanted to mention that she was in this gorgeous shop, And if you've been watching the news, a couple of years ago, Venice finally stopped letting in the big ships, the cruise ships. Big cruise ships aren't allowed in Venice anymore. And when I was talking to this woman, it actually made me really sad because Venice was such a port of trade that the artists were just dying off in Venice now because of all the kind of manufactured goods coming in from China and actual local artisans that have been there since millennia. It's one of the oldest cities in Europe.
Right.
And, you know, that was actually just, you know, the whole Venice, we can talk about ecotourism forever, but, you know, it's really important that, you know, we get back to the Venetian artists a bit more. So that's where I got her from. And I actually had a long talk with the owner of the store about cats in Venice, because the cat mask is one of the most, as you know, popular carnival masks.
Love it.
These little dolls, you see cat dolls, you don't see human baby dolls or anything. There's mostly cats are everywhere. And yet I didn't see a single cat on the street. So I was like, where are the cats? Every island I've ever been to is just overgrown with cats.
Especially in Europe. Especially in Europe. You go, it just, even continental Europe, there are cats everywhere. It's beautiful. They take good care of the babies.
Well, sometimes yes and sometimes
no.
In
Turkey, they take great care of them. And in Greece, they take good care of them. Italy's one of the yes and no countries. So a lot of places, they are overrun and they're just, you know, they don't have enough to eat, and it gets out of control on an island very quickly. So most of the cats are indoor in order to keep the, you know, the mice and rats and whatnot that are still, you know, can occur and be overrun on the lovely island of Venice. So I talked to her a little bit about the significance of cats, and since they were a major trade port, and hopefully will be again, they were one of the first in Europe because the ships would come over with cats, and the Venice are like, hey, what's that? Venetians, the Venice. What is this furball creature?
Yeah, pretty much. So the ships would come in and, you know, protect. So they used them to protect. So not only were they protected from the plague, but they used them to protect all of their goods from getting destroyed by mice.
Yeah. Speaking of cats in the plague, of course they helped with the plague in Venice, and you know the plague was huge in the 14th century in Europe.
It was all the rage.
So everybody had it. Everybody had it. That is so awful. Too soon.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry.
And like my brain just free associated to like the plague, the Mask of the Red Death, and to ooh, he wrote the black cat, and ooh, more cats. So like so we're gonna try to
bring it in.
Suppress those feelings of free association.
Yes. So the plague with the bubonic plague, of course, in the 14th century in Europe was all over Europe, including Venice. But the cats actually played a role in what is now modern day UK or England and, you know, northern France where Brittany is and all that as well. So of course we all know that black cats get a bad rap.
Poor babies.
It's sad. My thistle baby's a black kitty.
Caledon's black.
Caledon's black. They never do anything wrong. They are perfection.
You know, little mamas.
Yeah, dead babies. So, but they're in black. Oh yes, they did that. And black cats are actually one of the. I think they're the most common color of cat in the world.
Interesting.
Yeah, somebody told me that, and I was like, "Isn't that terrible that they're also the most persecuted?"
Wow, that's awful.
Yeah, because to this day we have the superstition that they're bad luck.
Wow.
And if they cross your path, specifically a black cat, not any other kind of cat, specifically a black cat, that's the superstition is that's bad luck. Yeah. Black cats, bad luck. And that actually in like bubonic plague UK and northern France, that was something they believed that the black cats were the devil's minions. And, you know, of course,
nobody's proved them wrong.
Nobody's really proved them wrong. But the cats don't give a fuck. So they're just doing them. They're like, I don't care. Because they genuinely aren't concerned with us because once again, they don't need us.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it was believed that they were the devil's minions, which is associated with witches, because you could be if you even so much as had a black cat that hung around your house, you could be killed because you were harboring a minion of the devil in 14th century England.
Nice.
Isn't that nice? So they were pretty awful, and they believed that they spread the disease, and they used to round black cats up and like genocide them, and it was horrific. And now that has mellowed into they are bad luck. Which of course none of it is true.
Right.
But that's part of the power of cats as well.
Right.
I think cats have a lot of power over our minds in us. And that goes way back into ancient mythology in all cultures, all over the world. Like Japan has a lot of cats in their mythology. I'm a Gemini.
I need more coffee.
Okay. So cats all over the world, including Second Show and Tell.
Second Show and Tell.
This is one of my bookies that I've had in my little home library since many, many, many years.
Really cool book.
And it's a really cool book. And it doesn't just deal with cats, obviously. This is Japan. But they have a whole little section on cats. And they kick it off with a Japanese proverb about cats.
Nice.
Okay. Feed a dog for 3 days, and he will remember your kindness for 3 years. Feed a cat for 3 years, and she will forget your kindness in 3 days.
Sounds about right.
It does sound about right.
A lot to think about there.
It is. It is. And cats are all over Japanese mythology.
Yes. So, nice segue. I will admit, so I do have my minor in art history. However, my focus is in ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome. I'm woefully ignorant of a lot of the Asian cultures and mythologies there, which I've got to make up for. So I started down looking at some different mythologies. And of course, it's just a very similar feel that there's sort of that love-hate thing. And cats, of course, in most regions of Asia were kept around the silk manufacturers in order to protect the silkworms, which was their major good, was, from silk. So I started researching, and then as soon as I got to the Bakeneko in Japan, I was like, okay, rabbit hole. I just rabbit holed right down there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And in Japan, they have the more of a supernatural feel to and I also kind of want to backtrack. When I say mythology, I'm very agnostic, and I don't ever say this religion's right, this is mythology and this is religion.
Right.
And generally the division would be how ancient and how long it's been practiced. But if I say mythology, I don't mean to if you believe in Poseidon, I'm with you. That's fine. Who's to say you're wrong?
It's an academically recognized category.
Right. So I don't want to offend anybody
right.
if, because there is just so much, especially when you're getting into, sort of the supernatural beliefs of Japan.
Which are largely based on something in reality anyway.
Right, right. So
you
say supernatural, somebody else says religion. So, you know what I mean? There's just, we could talk on culturally about Asia forever, but we won't. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Bakeneko and how cats are viewed in Japan. And that's sort of what Americans would call the supernatural element of spirit cats. And through my little wormhole, there's also sort of in Japan, they feel like certain criteria of cats can then possess your soul. Yeah. So they're very... it's interesting because in China it was cats with a white tail, and in Japan it was cats with a long tail. So even nowadays most cats in Japan have bobtails or shorter tails because it's basically just natural selection. They thought it helped them stand on their hind legs, which was sort of looks unnatural. And an interesting little tidbit that I did come across was that these legends per se go back to times where they were using lamp oil. And the cats would stand on their hind legs, and like they're unnatural because they drink oil. They lick oil. However, guess what the lamp oil was made out of?
Whales.
Fish oil.
Or fish oil.
Fish oil, and actually sardine. Often in Japan
they are
specifically.
So oily. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, you sort of like have this vision of a cat on its hind legs, especially in times where, there wasn't a lot of food to be had.
They wanted some fish oil.
They were hungry and they needed some protein. So they're standing under this light. They probably looked really just
weird,
scary, and weird and supernatural. And I actually love that thought and that look of it.
Is so interesting.
So they think a lot of these sort of traditions and folklore comes from that.
That's really interesting. And there's a lot of hind leg kitty stuff out there.
Yeah,
it's
it
and
really is. And the walking like a human sort of, and it's just, again, like when we're talking about this and what you were saying, it's just, it's amazing that in all different parts of the world, before they even knew each other really well or spoke a common language, a lot of these common sort of legends and folklore and beliefs all just start, slightly different. Like, why is it a white tail in China and a long tail in Japan?
Yeah.
But it's still the same. It kind of stems from the same.
It stems from the same thing. It's like, and this is totally another podcast, but an instinct for dragons, where every culture in the world has a dragon.
Yeah.
And there is an anthropological reason for that. But I can talk about that on another episode.
Also, not to, go down the path we normally go down. Every culture has like fried dough.
Yeah,
everybody has a donut.
Everybody does.
Everybody just decided, like, wow, I'm going to take this leftover, fry it, and add sugar, and every culture,
even Asian cultures, have that, and nobody communicated about it.
No,
and everyone likes to claim that they're the original.
Yeah,
but honestly, I think it's just humans like fried dough.
Yeah, fried dough. Yeah, you got something left over, you're not going to waste it. You're going to fry it.
Stick it in the pan, fry it up. It is delicious. Yeah. It's not very nutritious, but who cares?
No.
Yeah. When you just need calories in your body, you eat them.
Yeah. I would also like to say one last thing about the Bakineko is that I found that they have this festival, and it's essentially what we would call furries, where everybody dresses up as cats and they celebrate the spirit of Bakineko. And I'm not going to get into the whole yokai and different spirits. Some are believed to be good, some are, it's kind of back to the chaotic good and chaotic neutral of Dungeons and Dragons from podcast 1.
And of course, there are lots of cat creatures in those. But anyway, that is a whole other thing.
Yeah. So I really I'm intrigued that in this town outside of Tokyo, they do this festival, and it's just absolutely amazing, and absolutely do the research. I'll probably link one of the videos of the parade. But this started actually quite recently. It started again. So
if you're planning on going to Japan, pick the date around the
October.
Bakineko.
It's in October, I believe.
Which is great for Halloween.
Sweet.
Oh,
Sweet.
Man. And they actually love Halloween in Japan, too.
Yeah.
But, planning a trip to Japan, plan it around the Bakineko festival.
I totally would.
Yeah, I would, too.
Okay.
I would, too. Speaking of kitty cats who like to be on hind legs, a really popular Scottish, it's a little Irish, too, but I relate more to the Scottish is where you hear about it more. There is cat she is how I hear the Scottish people pronouncing it, but in American English it would be pronounced cat sith.
Which I definitely prefer.
Which I prefer, and that's what I'm going to be saying. I'm an American, and it makes you think of Star Wars and Sith Lords and cats as Sith Lords. I mean, come on. Yeah, it's a cat.
It's a natural thing.
It's a natural thing for us. So I'm going to say cat Sith.
It's like the one Star Wars that hasn't been spun off yet. All right, that's another podcast.
That is another podcast, and that you're welcome, George Lucas, if you were paying attention to that. Cat Siths.
Band name. Cat Sith. Nice.
That's the band name. Cat Sith. Oh my, that is so metal. Okay. That is the most metal. Okay. So the Cat Sith is very malevolent. Malevolent. Did I say that correctly?
Malevolent or benevolent?
Malevolent. Malevolent. I mixed it up. They're malevolent.
Your word of the day is malevolent. Try to use it 5 times in a sentence.
And try to say it 5 times fast. I can't.
No.
No.
Maleficent.
Maleficent, malevolent. Oh, all right. So they basically, they're usually portrayed as black cats with a white tuft on their chest. Some say that the tuft is in a star shape when it's a cat Sith.
Nice.
Which relates back to our Star Wars. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
saying.
But they say that the cat Siths are very large. They're the size of a dog, like a big dog. And they walk on their hind legs and even have people speech. And that, according to, and again, this is like taking bits and pieces, there are a lot of different myths. They don't all coincide, but they generally agree that there is like a whole cat society that the cat Siths live in. That's like a whole like peoples with laws, and they wear clothes and everything else, which is really, awesome. And that is.
Now, didn't you say that they don't act like that around humans?
They don't act like that around humans.
And it reminds me of Toy Story. Like, Andy's here. Humans are here.
That's exactly it. And that's it. So they do all of that, but then when people are around, they act like normal cats and they present as a normal cat. And it's only if you catch them, if you sneak up on them and they don't know you're there, that you will see the cat Sith actually on its hind legs and talking its talk and maybe having a beverage. I don't know, but it's like it's doing
maybe with their
kitten
mittens.
Kitten mittens. Is your cat too loud?
Gold star if you drop in the comments what this is in reference to.
I think you know. I hope you know. But that also leads me to the cat Sith, which is considered by this folklore, mythology, whatever you want to call it, a fairy in Scottish and Irish. It's considered one of the fairies.
Oh, I just had this image of like this little cat on a little wings. And that's going in the book.
That's going in the book. Going in the book.
Yeah.
But that is also the basis of the legend and the story of Puss in Boots, which was originally written in the 1550s by an Italian, Giovanni something.
Ribisi.
Thank you.
It's an actor.
And then it was rewritten in the 1690s or 70s by a French author, and it became more popular via the French version. But Puss in Boots is a cat Sith, people. Because if you know the original story of Puss in Boots, he is a lawbreaker in cat society, meaning that cat Sith let humans see him wearing clothes and walking upright and chitty-chatting.
And the little jaunty hat, like the Antonio Banderas version.
Yeah.
Wielding the lightsaber. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it kills me every time.
Yeah, that I can't do it. My eyes are not kitty meow eyes. They're not adorable like that, but you get what I'm trying to do. But Puss in Boots is a cat Sith. That's exactly what he is. That's what he's based on. And he's a lawbreaker because he acts like a cat Sith in front of people, which is against their code of conduct, and that's why he is cast out of cat society, which I thought was super fun and cool.
Rebel.
Yeah, and that's it. So I always thought that Puss in Boots before was just like a fun fairy tale that somebody just thought up. Well, wouldn't it be silly if a cat wore clothes? But it's actually based on the folklore of the cat Sith, which, I mean, that, who knows how old that, they can't even tell you how old the origins of that idea are. So that's what that's based on, which is really cool.
Okay.
And speaking of ancient origins of cats.
Okay, I finally get to talk about Egypt.
Let's talk about where cats fucking originated, man.
Okay. So, I was all prepared to talk about Bast. And Bastet, if you will.
Yeah,
I prefer Bast.
I do too.
And, obviously Bast has a lot of pop culture references, like let's talk about Neil Gaiman and the Bast sort of being forgotten in Sandman. However, what I really would like to talk about is Bast is not the only cat goddess in Egypt, and a lot of people that know just sort of the rudimentary ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses you see a cat and you think Bast. So
Yeah.
since you already see a cat and probably think Bast, I'm going to talk about the other two main goddesses. Now there's others like Mut, who is sometimes depicted as a cat and sometimes rides a cat and sometimes doesn't ride a cat, but
They have something to do with the cat.
a lot of them have something to do with the cat. But again, it goes right back to cats being sacred, cats being your protector. Cats keeping the rodents away.
Yeah.
So once again, this is why we have this god structure. So you've got Sekhmet, who is the goddess of plague. And she's depicted as a cat. I mean, it's just, we look at these things and we think, oh, that's weird, kind of god, but it makes sense. Cats kept him away, so she is goddess of other things as well.
Is she depicted often as a lioness? Is that the one, or am I getting that
Yes,
confused?
no.
Okay.
Sometimes lions now, they're, they kind of go back and forth depending on which ruler there was. So sometimes, like Sekhmet, sometimes was a cheetah.
Oh.
Or wore cheetah clothes, was a human with cheetah clothes. So you sort of have like the sort of the popularized,
okay, so
cat look.
She's more just related to cats of the savannah, if you will. Maybe. Visually.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way. But yeah, so she's, the gods, they have a very complex structure, as you know.
Of
So,
course.
we're not going to go into that. But, it's very interesting that you've got the goddess of plague. The cats kept away the plague. Again, we're going back to the same thing in a different part of the world, always happening the same way. And then Mafdet, I particularly like, and often Mafdet becomes Bast.
Yeah,
and back and forth.
I've heard that relation a little
Right.
bit. Like, how does that is it just like depending on who's telling the story?
Yeah, because if you think of the centuries that Egyptian gods were believed in and then not believed in and then believed in again, it all was up to the pharaoh. What they wanted to believe, how they wanted to be depicted, and whatnot. But yeah, so Mafdet I really love because she is the goddess of protection against snakes and scorpions.
Which is hyper important.
So, again, we're talking about plague, we're talking about mice and whatnot, but you think of different parts of the world, they have many venomous snakes there.
And I mean, snakes and scorpions, especially in ancient Egypt.
Cleopatra, am I right?
Oh, hell yeah. But I mean, just for the everyday man, if you accidentally step on a scorpion, you're dead.
Yeah. So the cats kept those away in Egypt.
Yeah.
And I just find that kind of fascinating that, again, it's by region and it all just boils down to the same thing. So I really kind of wanted to talk about that. And, as everybody knows, you had to have your cat mummified with you.
Yes.
And sadly, often the owner's cats were actually killed. So when an owner died, the cat was actually killed in order to be mummified to go with them. It is really sad.
Just let the kitty go, and then when he dies, you can mummify him.
Right.
But,
So,
that's also our, modern, more sensitive brains.
Right.
So,
I mean, in their brains, and who's to say they're wrong, the cat went with them to the afterlife. So it's not like you're really, you're just moving the cat along to a different.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but in ancient Egyptian mythology, aren't cats the guardians of the underworld as well?
Yes, and that also sort of varies, and we can get into that forever and
ever. But they're guardians.
They are guardians, and they're often as I said, the three main. It's not. They're not just the goddess of one thing. And actually, I believe it was Mafdet. It could have been Sekhmet. I should have looked this up more. Is actually the protector of the pharaoh.
Oh.
It's also, so yes, so she is a protector goddess as well.
So they're the most important one.
Yeah.
And in fact, they're VIP right there. Protecting the most important person.
And it's sort of interesting how some of them become more popular than others, but it's, there's three main ones out of a bevy of, cat related goddesses. So.
Right. And I was telling Elara that I watched a documentary about the genetic origins of cats a long time ago, and they actually proved through genetic science and just taking little saliva samples, which was hilarious. The way they got the saliva samples, they just were put a little something that they liked, and the cats just chewed on the swab, and they were rah, 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 and it was the most adorable thing in the world. But they proved that they genetically, the species of cats is genetically originated in Egypt, in that, region of the Sahara Desert. And it's the Sahara Desert cat are their direct ancestors.
Right.
And the Sahara Desert cats just look like little orange tabbies.
Cute.
They're really cute. They're wild, but they just look like orange tabbies. And then they, wander around the desert and kill scorpions and stuff and eat that.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's and speaking of ancient cat creatures that were real, that are real, like the desert cat is still alive and well in the Sahara Desert. You can actually YouTube some videos and watch it be adorable and meow meow. There is another mythological cat from Wales and France, northern France again. We're talking like the part that related more to across that channel, called I'm gonna look at the notes to say it correctly. The Cath Palug.
I'll believe you.
Palug is how that. I'm gonna say Palug.
Cathapalug.
Palug. If
like
you know how to pronounce this, put it in the comments. Send us a little message or whatever. I definitely would not mind knowing the correct pronunciation of that. And forgive me if
it probably varies a lot anyway.
It probably really does, depending on the accent and everything else. But I'm going to say the Palug because that feels most natural to me. And that is a cat of legend that was basically a monster. It was said to be huge, like the size of a wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Have And for a second when I was reading it, because they say, it has like tawny gray fur that sticks out and intense green eyes. And I was like, that sounds like a wolf. But they were like, no, it was definitely a cat. And it was said to have killed over 118 men.
Just men.
They said men. It probably killed women and children as well, but you know how history is. Patriarchy.
The cat was trying to catch up with the patriarchy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill just men.
Cat was the Palug was
this misogynist reign of terror.
Palug was like, I got you, ladies.
Back, ladies.
Let me take care of this. I heard ya. But and it wasn't considered to be intelligent. It was just like a monster, like a rogue, what we would consider like a rogue lion in today's world, the ones that become man-eaters. And that's basically what this was. It was a giant gray cat that was a man-eater. And a lot of people tried to kill it.
Everyone's singing the song right now.
Oh, there's a man-eater. Okay, anyway. So
I'm gonna drop the Hall & Oates 1-800 number. I'm gonna drop that. It's the Hall & Oates rescue line, even though they're fighting, which just
I know.
If they can't make it work, who can?
Who can? Hall & Oates. Anyway, but the rescue line is real. You can call it.
It is real.
It is real.
Okay.
Anyway. But the Palug they sent a lot of people. They couldn't get it just was like, meow, and it
yes.
It was just like, and it killed them. And
it's like the worst Tekken character.
That's how cats fight.
Yeah, you see that in Tekken just.
Cat fight. Anyway, but it actually ties into the legend of King Arthur, which, historically speaking,
is not in Tekken.
Is not in Tekken. Definitely, famously not in Tekken.
But okay.
But King Arthur, who around the year 900, 932 is when the person who the legend of King Arthur is based on lived. And they say in one of the legends of King Arthur, Camelot, blah, 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 that he is the one who actually slayed the Palug. And I have an interesting theory about the Palug.
Do go on.
And it relates to, actual, history.
Okay.
And we
don't say.
So we all know, for Ice Age creatures, Ice Age creatures are still around. There are still some around today. The Great American Buffalo is an Ice Age creature. That is a creature that has been around since the Ice Age. Look at it. Woolly coat, huge.
It just went from the ice buffalo to the water buffalo.
It just went from the ice buffalo
It's
to the water.
odd.
And but the American bison, that is an Ice Age creature. We still have a few of them around today, like woolly mammoths are Ice Age creatures. There was a woolly rhino, saber-toothed tigers, giant sloth. Anyway, so I have a theory that since this plug was described as very large, basically just a predator. It didn't have any magical powers. It didn't have anything else. I think that the plug may have actually been an Ice Age predator, similar to a saber-tooth maybe. Not a saber-tooth, obviously, but there were large predator cats, and it's very, very plausible that 1,000 years ago, they still would have been walking around, particularly in what is now Wales.
And when you think about it, there had to be a last one.
Yes.
So you see something, like you can definitely see where a lot of those legends may have come from.
Right, and that it was so fierce and that it killed so many men. And honestly, that it killed so many men, there may have been more than one.
Right.
And then maybe King Arthur just got the last one. But they were probably on the verge of extinction at that point. And they were a dangerous predator. And that's a personal theory. I have no basis in fact, but just it makes sense to my brain that the plug is based upon an actual Ice Age creature that terrorized that region. Actually, the island of Anglesey is actually, I think, where it all specifically took place, which is like off the coast of Wales. And
my husband came up with a great thought the other day.
Just one great thought. Not kidding.
I practically can't spit this out, but it's brilliant. A Yeti is an albino Sasquatch.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, well, they were saying that, there's white Sasquatch now in the United States. But yeah, the thought that a Yeti...
Yeah.
That a Yeti is
an albino
Sasquatch.
Well, and if you think
which is also like the best band name in the universe.
Albino
Sasquatch. Rock and roll. All right, so
yes, so that is, we got Catsith and we got Albino Sasquatch.
Nice.
Band names. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, bands who are looking for a name out there.
We will put those on the website. Speaking of website, we've started putting trivias on our website. So it's just super fun. It's just through a Google Doc. You don't have to put in your name if you don't want to. But yeah, we're going to do some super fun trivias. We got a couple up there, and check that out.
Yep.
And then we'll start our band names list.
We will. Oh my God, it's going to be fun. Keep that brain active. Trivia is just, honestly, puzzles and stuff.
Yes.
Just good to keep your brain moving.
And I'm going to categorize it. So, if you're not, it was World Science Fiction Day.
Oh, yeah.
And so I did one all based on science fiction. But if that's not your jam, we'll do them on fantasy. We'll probably do one on cats.
We'll do things randomly. January 20th is apparently National Cheese Day.
So instead of embarrassing ourselves further, I feel like we should move to peculiar recommendations. Hollis?
So, my peculiar recommendation harkens back to Puss in Boots. So, if you are familiar with Studio Ghibli or Hayao Miyazaki, who is the famous animator who started Studio Ghibli, blah, 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 animator who did My Neighbor Totoro, Kiki's Delivery Service, which has a cat named Gigi in it. That's who I'm talking about. In 1969, before Miyazaki ever was anyone, he did, I believe it's one of his first animated films ever, obviously through a different, he was the employee, but it is called The Wonderful World of Puss in Boots, and it is my favorite Puss in Boots movie of all time. I watched it 1,000 times when I was a child. I probably had it memorized.
Little baby Hollis.
Little baby Hollis. But it is such a fantastic film. The Wonderful World of Puss in Boots. If you just say Puss in Boots, Miyazaki, you're gonna find it on the internet. And
sure, we'll drop the link. We'll drop the link.
And it's, I hope, if it's available, if the whole movie's available on YouTube or something, we'll just put that link there. It's really cool. They actually venture back to the original story of Puss in Boots that has him being cast out of cat society.
So not only is it a peculiar recommendation for you, it is a history lesson.
It's a history lesson. It actually harkens very close to the original story that was written about Puss in Boots and how he's cast out of cat society. The other cat Siths are chasing him to assassinate him. And there's an ogre and a princess, which is all in the original story. It's super fun, and Puss in Boots has a name, and his name is Peril.
Ooh.
Which is my favorite.
Nice.
But that is my peculiar recommendation. So check it out. Watch it with your kids. I've been watching it since my earliest memory of that movie was when I was 4 years old. So it's actually very, very child safe.
Okay.
Even though there's an ogre, he's cool. He's fine. What about you, Elara?
My peculiar recommendation. Everyone's gonna hate me. It is, I'm going to say very specifically, it's a show called Utopia. And Utopia is very meta because Utopia was a comic book that they made into a TV show about a comic book. There was a British version of the TV show, which I started watching, but I just finished the American version, so I was a little like over Utopia'd. I'm going to get back to that one. So I'm going to talk about the US version a little bit, which I believe was just 2020, and it was a little bit too tough. I don't know why. Like, I just watched The Stand, which was actually really good. It was like the 2020 version.
Yeah.
Why did they release these super virus shows in 2020? I feel like they were just setting themselves up to fail because I think it was just a little too close to home.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Close to home.
And of course, when they were making them, they had no idea the pandemic was going to hit. That's the spooky part, right there. Because nobody knew.
Which is actually
knew.
Goes right back to Utopia because it was a secret thing. So, in a nutshell, it's this cult who like the graphic novel and realize that everything in the graphic novel is actually real and is going to happen. So there's a lot of sort of like future vision. There's a lot of sort of, the paranormal sort of element to it. It's, when I say it's brutally violent, I mean in a comical way. I feel like I just setting myself up to be a bad person, but it's sort of over the top, but it's not shock gore. I don't like that art house shock gore. It's not like that.
Dark
but
comedy?
It is
Dark comedy?
Violent, maybe. And yes, it is dark comedy to a T, which is I love.
Which violence is also usually a part of dark comedy.
So they have a lot of sort of mysteries going on. You're not quite sure who falls in where, and you're following this comic book, and they're not sure. You'll get sort of hints of something from the graphic novel as they show it through the series. But it's very odd, and I like sort of unique storytelling. Yeah. And it's a very unique storytelling.
And John Cusack's in it.
John Cusack is in it.
And he's Rainn Wilson is also in it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some other really fantastic actors
that
I can't remember at the moment. But and I think that wraps it up.
Yes.
In spades. We could go on
forever.
Because it's cats.
Yeah.
And mythology. And we'll probably have another cat episode about maybe the Zodiac.
I don't think we can help it. I mean, it's just always going
to. It's important. It's important. Yeah. We don't have these ears for just, convenient. I mean, we have them because we love cats. And we're cosplayers.
Right.
That too. But that is our little take on cats and mythology. I know we covered just a centimeter's worth of what there actually is out there in mythology worldwide, but we had to pick some favorites. And if you want to talk in the comments, drop in the comments your favorite mythological cat.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
So many to choose from.
There are so many to choose from. And hey, maybe we'll probably learn something.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we'll learn something.
Yeah.
So maybe you'll tell us something we've never heard of, and we love that.
Yes.
So yes, please.
All right.
Yeah.
Signing off. This is Elara.
This is Hollis.
Bye.
Bye.
Round 1. Fight!